Welcome to the Women Shifting Gears podcast driven by Hemmings. I'm your host, Amanda Busick. Our podcast aims to introduce you to the inspirational women who showcase their talents and leaderships across the automotive and motorsports worlds. And even when I have my own moments of doubt and uncertainty, it is with this community of women that I'm reminded of what is possible. Thank you all for sharing in this space of authenticity with us. Here we go. Sara Price is an American racing driver who has competed in motocross, rallying, the X Games, Stadium Super Trucks, and is currently competing in Extreme E for Chip Ganassi Racing. In 2010, she became the first female factory-supported motocross racer with Monster Energy Kawasaki Racing. In addition to her racing achievements, Sara is also an entrepreneur who owns her own auto paint business and helps fund her passion. And as with a racing career that sees her traveling all over the world all year long, we catch up with Sara in between one of those journeys on the Women Shifting Gears podcast driven by Hemmings. Sara Price joins us on the Women Shifting Gears podcast driven by Hemmings. She is an off-road champion. She's also an American racing driver racing all over the world, and she's not even 30 yet. And Sara, I want to go back to, as I was doing some discovery on you, one of the sentences that stuck out to me is that you began your racing career at 8 years old. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I was 8 years old when I got my first dirt bike. I was actually on horseback first, and then my dad raced off-road cars, and then my brother got into racing motocross, and so yeah, I ended up waking up at 8 years old to Christmas to a dirt bike, and my parents didn't know what to do with all my energy, so when my brother was at the track practicing, they got me this little dirt bike so I can just go do laps and wear myself out, basically, and little did they know what that would turn into and, turn professional in motocross at age 16 and have an incredible career in that.
So you talk about your energy as a kid. Did you know when you were younger that you had a desire for, I don't want to say the extreme of sport, but maybe just the adrenaline of it?
Yeah, 100%. I think from the moment I could walk, my parents knew they were in trouble. Actually, when I was a baby, I couldn't even sleep until they drove me around in the Jeep. Oh. So I was always kind of one of those wild childs, to say the least, and just, always had so much energy and always wanted to do everything kind of. So yeah, it's my life.
Sounds like you maybe some things were introduced your way because you had an older brother. Did you kind of chase him and the things that he was doing as a kid?
Definitely. I think so. But my brother and me are completely opposite. So it's really funny. Like, he's very much a perfectionist, where I'm very much the aggressor. And so it was just two different ways of doing things, and two different routes we took in life. And yeah, it was pretty interesting, but I'm very much like my dad, and he came from off-road racing too.
When you decided that this is something that you might look at pursuing as a profession, what was your dad's reaction?
So I had that goal since the moment I raced, to be honest. Like, I won my first race at 8 years old, and ever since then, I was kind of like, all right, now where can I go with this? Like, I want to turn professional. I want to race the big bikes. I want to be up there and racing that, because we always watch Supercross and all these things. And I kind of knew the moment. It's kind of how I work, I guess, it's, you get a taste of something, and then you're looking at the bigger picture of that, and you want to figure out how to make that work and happen.
Did you see yourself in other people at that age? A lot of times they say you can be what you see. Was there any other women that you saw or any other girls surrounding you?
Not totally, no. I would say there was females out there for sure, but I never looked at them as just them. I looked at everyone. I looked at myself as a competitor. I wanted to go out there with the boys, and I more or less looked at the men, to be honest, because there wasn't very many females. And I knew that whatever the riders I was looking at, they were the fastest in my class that I needed to beat. And so, I paid attention to that and what my end goal was.
Outside of racing, what were some of your passions at that age? You're a kid in California. What's going on for yourself?
Horses. I loved horses. I love animals. But aside from that, motocross was my life. Like from 8 years old and on, that's it. That was what I eat, lived, and breathed. Like going to the gym and riding.
A lot of times we talk about from a stick and ball side of the dominance that sports can play in young kids' lives. Was it a traveling part of your life as well? Like, would your families go from city to city, or how did that look on the weekends for the Price family?
Yeah, so we were always river people and desert people. So in the summer, you catch us at the river, and then in the winter, you catch us at Glamis. And, California has a lot to offer for that. And so we're always doing something. But yeah, growing up in the desert is definitely what probably has stemmed all this from. That's what my parents love. That's what we love. And, I still do it to this day. And I hope one day to share that with my kids.
At 16 years old, you said you went professional. Prior to that, are there things that need to be in order to make that leap?
Definitely, at 16 years old, you got to figure out, okay, like most of the time in motocross, your career is very early. So you're trying to figure out, okay, am I going to go to school? Am I going to finish school? Like a lot of racers don't. And so that's one thing I made a priority. My parents made me have a priority is you need to get your diploma, however which way you figure out how to do that. And then you can go racing all you want. And we'll take you on the road while you're doing your schoolwork and you can go racing, but figure out how to get your schoolwork done in between traveling. And so, yeah, I think that's a big one for a child in extreme sports. And then also, too, you got to be dedicated. You got to be willing to sacrifice the norm, I guess, for high school. Like I never went to school dance, like never got to experience a lot of those things. I don't feel like I missed out totally for myself. But it is interesting now, like as you grow up and you kind of look back and you're like, oh, wow, it was so different, than normal people or normal traditional ways.
No, I think it's a good point on, like you said, you didn't experience some of the pivotal moments that high schoolers have for themselves that are kind of benchmarks for their lives. That sacrifice, though, what did your friends think about you?
That was a whole other, I guess, barrier I had to break through in my life is because I didn't go to school. I didn't have the friends that I would be going to school with. So I was homeschooled and schooled on the road. I was going race to race. So like my friends were kind of this traveling circus of racers that we would go to all these nationals. And even then we were competitors. So it wasn't like we were best friends. It was just so funny because now we're all closer than we were when we were younger. We're just so competitive back then. And it was just funny how it worked out. But yeah, when motocross kind of was changing for me and I was evolving and doing more other things, it was kind of like, oh my, I have to figure out how to be just Sarah without being the racer and have a friend and have friends and learn that whole thing in life. And that happened later for me. But now, I have great friends. So.
Well, I guess it was around 2010 you became the first female factory-supported motocross racer for the Monster Energy Kawasaki Racing, getting that nod. And again, I know we fight this bullseye of females in motorsports all the time, but I imagine that had to have been pretty cool to be selected for that.
Oh, that was my dream. My dream when I started racing dirt bikes was I want to be on Kawasaki Team Green. And that isn't a professional team. It is Kawasaki's amateur elite team. And that was my dream. Little did I expect to reach the professional level and at the highest level there is. That was pretty incredible for me. And, it's just so funny because I talk about this with, some friends, and I always am never content. When you get something, you look ahead and you look at what more can I get? Now what else can I do, And that is something that I have to detune myself on because that's my life completely in a nutshell is that I'm trying to do everything I possibly can and more. So, yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Would you say that impatience is also your ambition, though?
100%. I would say that as much as it's a double-edged sword, it helps you, but then also is sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I have too much going on. I need to step back. And I think it's been really interesting to look back on me maturing and realizing those things and kind of looking back and where it came, Like I sent a resume out yesterday, and it was an old one from 2 years ago. And, I hadn't updated it for 2 years, and I just was looking at it, and I'm like, wow, just in 2 years, how things have changed. Like, it's crazy to look back on sometimes.
Where was that resume headed?
It was just headed to a friend, and I'm like, to be honest, I was like, I don't have any updated stuff, so here's this, like, if you want something.
I'm sure you look at multiple roles in your career currently, but one of those is a driver for Chip Ganassi Racing. You race in the Extreme E Series. Chip Ganassi, that's a big name in motorsports. How exciting was that to align with a franchise like that?
Oh, wow. To be a part of Chip Ganassi Racing, that was an honor and something I never predicted in my life. I am beyond, excited to be a part of his team. And Chip himself is just incredible. His team is top notch. They obviously have the results, they have the capabilities of anything and everything in motorsports. And, I'm just so proud to be a part of such an incredible workplace and what they represent. It's awesome. Want to make them proud. I know our first year didn't go great in Extreme E, so this second year we just finished our first race and we got fourth, which is in that race it's very unpredictable, so that's pretty good. That was a lot more consistent than last year, so we know we have the speed. We just have to get the results. So we're trying to make Chip happy, that's for sure.
Well, I'm going to dive more into Extreme E because you guys are going into incredible locations across the globe that I know our listeners are going to just be blown away by. But back to the Chip Ganassi side, you were the first female driver to ever be part of his stable of drivers. What do you think his commitment is to the future of females in motorsports?
I think Chip he is very diverse in that. He has tons of female engineers. A lot of women are in Chip Ganassi Racing, which is pretty awesome to see. Like I'm not the oddball when I'm there, and that's pretty awesome. But I am the only female driver as of now. But I think Chip, he doesn't care if you're a male or female. If you're a racer and you're fast and you can help him achieve what he wants to do, and that's win, then he doesn't look at that.
On this Extreme E series, there is a commitment from the series for there to be teammates of one female and one male. Do you feel that the roles for female in motorsports are getting better?
100%. And that's exactly what Extreme E, I think, is laying out such a great platform for females in the future. Because if you put it in perspective, you have one out of 100 men, one's a female. And most likely those males are going to get more of the opportunity than the female. And it has nothing to do with she's a girl, she's a guy, or whatever the case is. It's just, well, we have more men racing, so we expect that they should get the opportunity because they're probably going to be better, faster, or whatever the case is. It just is what it is. And now with Extreme E, it's mandatory to give a female the chance to shine. And so I think opportunity is where it's at, and they're providing that.
And this could be a controversial question, but I just want you to answer it and how you feel. Are females as talented as men?
Yeah, definitely. I think in driving, that's what's so awesome about driving is the fact that we can have, the same lap time as a male. There's no physical indifference. Obviously, there's balances inside a male and a female that separate us on the mental side or the physical side, but there's no actual physical difference in strength needed. So that's pretty awesome. So no, in driving, there isn't, but in motocross, there is, because we have a stronger lower body than a male upper body, and you need an upper body in order to manhandle a dirt bike properly. So it's a little bit harder for a female in motocross for sure.
You ended up making the transition from two wheels to four. What prompted that decision for yourself?
The future in motocross was looking really dim. I spent my whole childhood trying to reach that goal and realized there kind of wasn't a light at the end of the tunnel to make a living off of it. So I kind of had to come up with something, figure something else out in my life. And so I ended up starting an auto paint business, and then bought my first car and started going racing and doing that. And it fulfilled my need to race, and then one thing after another, I'm standing in the shoes I'm in. So it's pretty crazy to evolve and adapt and change, and then still be in the same spot as it kind of was before, but in a better spot. And also, have the other part of your life kind of figured out a little bit with the financials and stuff, where before I was just a kid racing a dirt bike professionally, trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for my food or whatever the case is.
Okay, expand on that more. So this auto paint business still operational?
It is, yeah. I still have my auto paint business. It's now we're all over the U.S. There's 7 people that work for the company, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's something that I was painting 2 days a week, and then I'd go racing the rest of the time and train, and it's how I could afford to go racing. And so I tried to instate that in other people that wanted to be a part of it, and they got the same thing.
So there are other drivers that are part of your company?
Not right. No, there isn't any other drivers. There is riders and other athletes for sure. Yeah, that are, but they come from moto, and some were announcers. Some were working at companies that I worked with myself, or yeah, it's kind of all over the books.
How are you as a business owner?
I think being a business owner, there's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot to learn. And I try to make the business pretty self-efficient, as my focus is now racing, and it keeps taking more and more of my attention, which is great because, the opportunity's there. And so it's something that I've had to definitely learn a lot about, and to figure out how to work with people and how to motivate them and how to keep them aligned with the business and what they want. And so it's definitely a challenge, being a business owner, but I love it, and I hope to get into more businesses in the future.
What would your employees say about you?
Well, they're not employees, so they kind of work for the business as independent contractors in a way. So they're a mobile business, and so they would be like, "Sarah's busy." They're like, but they don't really need me most of the time. So I basically train them and teach them the trick of the trade, and then everything's pretty self-efficient. So it's all up to them in the end. It's their own business that they're running, basically just using my name.
So when you get the financial side of your life looked after and you go back onto the hunt of this racing career, because I hope that our audience knows at this point, because we've talked to racers and we've talked to people on all sides of the business, but a lot of times they say if you want to be broke, buy a race team. So, but from an athlete perception, it is getting that sponsorship, it's getting that money. Now that you have that kind of established for yourself, what was your first foray back into trying to be a racing driver?
So I bought a Polaris Razor. They're these side-by-side machines, and I just started racing locally in those. Honestly, that was the way we did it, and it just one thing kept climbing, and it just kept going up and up from there. So yeah, basically the Polaris Razor I have a lot to owe, because that's where I started my 4-wheel career at.
Now, is that what you headed to the Baja in?
No. So in Baja, I actually raced in trophy trucks. So that's a larger, big machine. But I still, to this day, I'm racing Polaris Razors, and I use the Polaris Razor to pre-run for the truck racing.
For those that might not know of the Baja 1000, it's kind of like almost a cult race at this point of, I would say everyone wants to be part of it in some form or some fashion. Talk about your experience in the Baja and what it was like competing in that race for you.
Yeah, the Baja, oh my gosh, scoring a nationals Baja series is just incredible. It was always a dream of mine. And I got an insane opportunity to race a truck for RPM Off-Road, thanks to Clyde Stacy. And, I wanted to take the opportunity and utilize it the most I could. So I put every little ounce of effort I had into it. And we did every single mile. I Iron Woman'd, I guess, the whole entire series from the 250, 400, 500 to 1,000. The 1,000 took 19 and a half hours straight in the vehicle. And in the end, we won the championship. And so pretty awesome to do that in such a feat like we did. So that was pretty cool.
How do you even stay conditioned to be alert for 19 hours in a vehicle like that over bumps and terrain?
I don't sleep. Already I don't sleep. I struggle at sleeping. So It was if I would have got out of the truck, I would have just drove my team crazy, just being like, "Where is it? How's it doing?" Because usually they share it between like two or three drivers at the least. And so, yeah, it was definitely one of those things, but I don't know, I have that mental capacity to do things like that, I guess, and push through.
Well, you were coming off of, I know the announcement of joining Chip Ganassi was in around June of 2020, which is kind of great that there was some positive news happening for you during the pandemic. But when the pandemic first kicked off in March, what was going through your mind of what would happen with opportunities?
I think everything was going to slow down for sure. But for us, we live in the desert and we didn't let it stop us in any which way. I think the whole world of off road didn't really let it stop them, to be honest. So, not much changed, to be real, I guess. It was just like more just staying home kind of racing and traveling. So, it wasn't much worldwide travels.
Were you concerned at all on any opportunities at that point, or fine being back towards home?
No, I wasn't too concerned. I did miss out on one opportunity because I wasn't able to travel somewhere and have a meeting that probably could have been something big. But other than that, it was no, everything was kind of done over a conference call. And then if you really needed to get somewhere, you kind of figured it out. But the one thing is like, he didn't want to get COVID and then be out of an opportunity
Sure.
because of it. And so I ended up getting it, but it was during New Year's and it was downtime. So it worked out, but it was no problem.
All right, well, back to Extreme E because I find this series absolutely fascinating. You kick off with the inaugural season. You guys get to wave the American flag in this series against all these other teams. Talk about that first year, and if you can tell us a little bit about the format first of why and how this series exists, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so Extreme E is pretty awesome. So what they're doing is they're highlighting environmentally impacted areas in the world and climate change and whatever we can do to basically make the planet better. And they're using racing to highlight that. But this racing isn't just any racing. Like this is what I like to say the F1 of off-road. There's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of very big names in it, and it's blowing up really. We're in electric SUVs. It's a fully spec series, so it comes down to the driver and working with your team and your engineer very closely, and then a male and females on every single team. So it's pretty cool, very diverse, very different. And no matter what, when I get in the car, Kyle gets in the car. So we're a team no matter what. He does a lap, I do a lap. And that's considered one race, one practice, one whatever. So it's very different, but it's awesome what they're doing and representing, and proud to be a part of it.
I hope this is still part of the series because one of the like early articles I read was that the organization had bought like a shipping vessel
Yep.
that would travel. Do you guys still have that?
Yeah, the St. Helena. So they bought the ship, and it's really kind of crazy. The first intention was all the racers and everyone had to stay on the ship. But then I think the logistics side of it, when we go to races, we're kind of far away from the port, and we leave the track so late that we all kind of want to go back and get some sleep. So, but yeah, the vehicles actually. So our whole team, our whole paddock, our race little sledge we have to put everything on in order to go to the next race gets put in a container and it gets loaded onto the ship, and then the ship carries the car to the next place we're racing at all around the world. So yeah, St. Helena is real and it's pretty incredible. It's a beautiful ship they remodeled, and so yeah, the owner himself, Alejandro, he has crazy get-togethers on that thing. It's nuts.
I mean, you would, right? Like, why wouldn't you at this point? It's incredible. And I like that the commitment to also battling the emissions of carbon emissions that it takes to put on a global racing series. So the idea that the foresight of that was there was just, I remember seeing a photo of the ship somewhere and I was like, wait, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
It was just incredible. And I mean, and let's go ahead and point out some of these places. I know you were in Saudi Arabia just recently. You guys kicked off the inaugural season in Saudi Arabia. I mean, there were stops in Greenland, Chile, Senegal. I think you guys did the coast of Great Britain. So, I mean, you're hitting in all these different places, and it's with the awareness to environmental issues.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So yeah, we're going to Saudi. We've been to now twice, two different places. Um, and every place we go, it represents something else for climate change or what's environmentally impacting the environment, whatever we can do to help them, or grow awareness for it. So in Saudi, this last one, we went to Neom, and Neom is going to be this crazy new way of living, pretty much. And so they're calling it the line. And so basically, you're going to live on a line. You're going to have different stops. It's going to be basically no vehicles on this line. And you're going to take a train and you stop at the doctor's office, the one pod, and then the next one is like your food. The next one is like the ecosystems and stuff and everything collabing with the human life. So we got to plant trees. One of the first trees of billions that they're pledging to plant there. And they want it to be like it was 200 years ago, like the Africa desert where, crazy wildlife, zebras and stuff
Wow.
are drinking out of like a river, and they're trying to make all this happen again. So that's pretty cool. As well as Greenland, we were the first ever motorsport event to race in Greenland. And that's pretty crazy to be racing and looking at a glacier right in front of you. So we actually slept on a glacier for a legacy project. Froze, definitely froze, but it was raining the night we slept on the glacier, and it's not supposed to rain. So that was 1 out of 5 times that year it rained, and the glacier was just melting so heavily. It was crazy to experience firsthand.
When you get to be part of these community activities in all these different locations around the world, what have you learned about yourself through it?
I've learned so much actually. One, before this, to be honest, I wasn't as aware of the environment, like in all these ways that they're teaching us. And I'm embracing it. I'm getting immersed into it and getting to learn these things. And there's some things that I believe a lot more in than other things for sure. But I do stand very true to those things now, and I never did before. So it's changing me, and I hope that I can preach and help change other people as well, because it can't be bad for anything. So it can only help everyone.
Is there something specifically that you saw that was kind of an aha moment?
I think the plastic and what it does to sea life, in particular, and what we do to the sea life and the corals and seagrass and all that stuff, that it means so much to the marine life that they have all those things, and we kind of disrupt it as human beings. And then also too with our pollution, and we're talking about carbon, and a whale is one of the biggest creatures in the world, and that's one of the biggest helps to us to trap it. And it's like we're out there doing unhuman like things, like, so those things kind of, I think the animals and like
Yeah.
saving them and doing our part to not pollute as much is my big thing. Like plastic, like throw your trash away, or like make sure it goes to the right place, and actually like put the little extra effort in.
And with the Extreme E Series, these legacy projects are where you guys kind of get to be hands on hand or one on one with kind of the communities and work in these projects. And the idea that the racing driver is also brand ambassador these days, or is also working with sponsors. How do you balance those roles?
Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of balancing that goes on, especially racing for a team, having my own team, and then also being ambassador for things. A lot of my own racing, I consider myself just an ambassador that goes racing pretty much, because it's really hard to just be a racer anymore. I think racing is no longer the win on Sunday, sell on Monday, and you're done. Like now the next race, new sponsor. It doesn't work that way anymore. You have to be very diverse. You got to be very open. You got to work very hard to make sure that people see that company or whoever's supporting you in all forms. So it's kind of a full-time job.
If someone is being introduced to you as a fan, or I come across you, who is Sara Price?
Ooh, I would say I'm very motivated, can be intense at times and quiet at times, but other times very energetic, very determined.
I know we were in scheduling this podcast. It's not just Formula E that you're a part of this year. How many weekends are you spending away from home?
Oh, spend a lot of time away from home. I'm never home. But yeah, with Extreme E, we have 5 races a year. But with those 5 races, it's usually we're gone, I would say 14 days each one figure. So that's 2 weeks each race. But then there's also so many other things that come along with it. So media events or whatever the case is. And then other events that I'm doing. This beginning of the year is usually the busiest for me, I'd have to say, because we have my personal racing going on as well as Extreme E starting now. So it's been a whole new thing to kind of juggle to figure out what the priorities are and what things are going to take your most time to put your undivided attention to. So it's been a lot, but we definitely, my boyfriend races too. And so he's in Dubai right now. I got home from Saudi. We were home 2 days, and then it's like, all right, it's just our lifestyle. It's what we love to do. And I don't mind it. When I'm home too long, I go a little stir crazy. So.
Well, Sarah, thank you for joining us here on the Women Shifting Gears podcast driven by Hemmings. We're going to rotate to the hot lap, but considering your lifestyle, I don't think you're going to be intimidated by this at all, but we'll throw it at you. You're headed on a road trip. Where are you going?
Oh, headed on a road trip. Where am I going? I think I want to go to, Glamis. Let's go to Glamis.
Okay. What are you driving?
My GMC 2500.
Okay, I think I just saw a photo of that on Instagram. So You'll have to tell people to follow you on Instagram because it's a beautiful truck.
Thank you.
If you're in the left seat, who's your passenger?
If I'm in the left seat, probably my boyfriend telling me how to drive.
What's on the radio? Wait, I gotta pause there. How does that work? Okay, you were both race car drivers. So how does
He's
that
actually
dynamic
a dirt bike
work?
rider.
Okay. So how does that work?
It's just Ricky. It's just who he is.
And so do you predominantly drive? Does he predominantly drive?
He hates driving, so he always tries to make me drive, but I always try to make him drive.
So you're driving and he's still telling you how to drive. Yeah. All right. Well, who gets to control the radio in this situation?
Who's ever driving.
Okay. So great. This is part of the hot lap. Okay, so You're driving. Ricky is the passenger trying to tell you how to drive. So you're going to turn the radio up. What's on the radio?
I actually don't listen to anything in particular. I have a shuffle of everything. My playlist is so all over the place.
So it can be totally random.
Yeah.
And so what would random be for you? Like Lady Gaga to Celine Dion, or what's
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, you would have Hall & Oates to
Yeah!
I don't even know, to Cardi B.
I would like to be your passenger. So in case you get tired of Ricky telling you directions, you can pick me up on the way to Glamis.
Yeah, there you go.
Any certain road snacks that you prefer?
Ooh, Baja jerky.
Okay.
Or their Baja mangoes.
Is it just a flavor?
No, it's just the best beef jerky there is. And then even their dried fruit, their mangoes, they just came out with them. It's just, I don't know. They're just the best.
I don't know if this is a West Coast thing, but I'll have to look at it when I'm out there.
It is. I'll have to send you some.
Well, I think not to downplay any of the other road trips that we've had on this series, but yours sounds pretty fun. I think I might have to hitchhike on that one.
There you go.
Well, I know we in the beginning we were talking about what I love about this age and where you're at is we were talking about that impatience and we talk about the ambition. Would you say that you're content right now?
No, I'm never content. And that's the one thing I struggle with, but I'm aware of it. And so, I don't think there's any one thing that I've learned that is going to just be oh, I'm content. I finally got that thing off my list or what I really wanted. I think it's one of those things that I'm going to always have. And it's probably not a bad thing, but it might drive myself a little crazy and everyone around me. But yeah, every once in a while, it's nice to kind of be wow, I'm actually okay, I can relax and let my brain relax today, but that's rare.
What are some of the short-term goals then?
Short-term goals would be really want to do well in Extreme E. Really, really want to win that. So, right now I'm putting all my efforts in towards that to be the best I can in that. And then personally, building a house, my dream house. So, trying to just obtain that. and make that happen. Never built something before, so it's been a lot of learning in that. And the shop comes first. The house will probably come years later. But yeah, we're building the shop right now.
Spoken like true racers. I see also on social media that you are in part of women in motorsports groups, and it does seem that one of the things that you're passionate about is giving this gift back that has been given to you. What would you tell young up-and-comer drivers, riders, if you cross paths with yourself at 8 years old, what would you say?
I would just say do it, be about it, and be around it as much as you possibly can. Go make friends in it. That's what you spend your time doing. Just make it all the time you possibly can doing it. Because when you're around it and you put the vibes out there, you put the energy out there, you're learning more. Things happen, and that's how it works. It doesn't just fall into your lap, but if you're around it, sometimes it kind of does because you didn't realize, but you set yourself up for that.
Sara Price on the Women Shifting Gears podcast, driven by Hemmings. This Women Shifting Gears podcast, driven by Hemmings, is a production of GSEvents.